All right, everyone. So we're back, and I decided to kind of do a little like fairy garden theme kind of thing. So what I decided was to use these little doll fairies that I got from All Things Precious. I found them on Etsy, and excuse me. And what I liked about them so much was they were a little more realistic than some of the fairy uh, fairy things that I've seen online. So I really liked this one. The only thing is with these is, so what I did was I dropped them in and then I put all of them to the layer mode screen. And what we're going to do is I have the one in the background here. So let me just write fairy back on here just so I know what's what. Fairy front. And sparkles on front fairy. So what we need to do now is I need to go in because this one back here, this fairy back here, is too sharp because I want it to be sort of behind her. I might even make it a little smaller. So I'll hit Control T and make sure that your little chain here is clicked. We're going to make it just a bit smaller. And we are going to go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Now that's too much. So we'll bring that down. We just want it to appear as though it's behind her. So we'll say like that much there. And this one, we do need to blur the top one and the sparkles as well. So let's go to Filter. I just clicked on that front fairy, Blur, Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we'll just bring this down to, yeah, to like 1. And that looks good. And we'll have to do the same for the sparkles. So Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur at 1 and hit OK. Alright, so the next things that we want to do with these is to help them match the background a little bit more. They are very bright. So we will go to a curves layer and we're just going to clip this curves layer down. Create a clipping mask. So I just right clicked on the layer and went create a clipping mask. And what I'm finding is the highlights are like super bright on these little fairies. So I'm going to bring the highlights down and maybe the midtones, just all of it down a little bit here. I just wanted to see what it was doing. All right. So to me, that's looking better, but it's affecting the color, and I don't really want it to affect the color so much. I want it to affect the highlights and shadows. So I'm going to turn the blending mode of this curves layer to luminosity. And it's going to not affect the color as much with luminosity as it would with the normal. So there it is, normal. There it is, luminosity. It's very subtle, but it is a bit better. I think I'll just go back into here and I'm going to bring those shadows back little. The highlights are still way too bright. All right. Now I might even want to change the tone of this fairy. So let me just see what doing a hue or a color balance might do. I'm going to clip that down. And I want it to be a little less yellow. I'm just going to bring some of the blues in it a bit. Bring in some more cyans. And maybe a little bit more green. And let me just see what that looks like. Maybe I put in too much green, so I'm just going to put it at like 2%. Probably just lower all of these a little bit. Oops, I put plus. We want minus. Let's see what minus 10 is. There we go. I'm just going to zoom out and just see what that fairy's looking like. I feel like I put too much cyan in there, so we'll just say like -5, half of what I had it. All right, so I'm liking that better. I'm gonna actually just copy both of these layers. Copy. So shift and then drag them down to there, to the plus. And I'm actually gonna drag them below the first one. Oops. I'm having a bit of troubles here, so I'm just going to expand that so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. We want to drag them below this first fairy, and we want to clip these down like that. And I'm going to group all of this. Actually, I just want to see. So that's the curves. That's the color. And yeah, I'm liking that. So I'm going to group all of these fairies here. So I had, oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. So you want to click the first one and hit Shift to select all of them, Control G, and we'll call those fairies. In all capitals. And, oh, some of the curves one of them is affecting, oh, here we go. Did I make too many copies? I think I have too many copies here. So we'll just delete these ones because we have the curves there, we have the curves there. There we go, that looks better. All right, so there's our fairies. And now I kind of want to put some more sparkles in front of her. So I have some from Lily Alvarado. I think that's how you would pronounce her name. And she's got these really awesome like sparkle firefly overlays. So I'm going to add a little bit of those. Let me just find one that I like. Let's see what this Baroque. Is it Baroque? Baroque? Baroque is not right. All right, so it's just loading on here now, and we'll see what the sparkles look like. It kind of adds to the like whole fairy theme. I like all the sparkles and dust and stuff added to these ones. It's just going to take a minute to load here. All right, so it looks like it's covering my image pretty well. We'll just hit enter. And I'm probably going to paint some off my subject, but we'll just see how this is going to look. So you want to put these ones to screen, and we are going to lower the opacity quite a lot. And I might just move it down. Let's just see what that looks like if we just move this entire layer downward, kind of just have them in the front. And I'm liking that right there. Yeah, that looks really cute. All right, so I'm really liking all the warm tones in here. So now what we're gonna do is, I feel like those fairies are still just too bright. So I'm gonna put a curves layer over this entire layer, create a clipping mask over the fairies layer. And again, I'm just gonna bring those highlights down. Oh, uh-oh, it's like showing up on, we'll just delete that. So I'm not sure why that was happening. I wonder if they're showing up. Let's see what the curves is doing here. No. Well, yeah, we're gonna have to figure something out there. I think what we'll do is I'll make a total like copy of this background here, and I'm gonna bring it up above, and we're gonna blur this out. So we're gonna go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we're just gonna bring it like really, really, really blurred. And we'll hit OK. Oops. Yeah, that's good right there. And we are going to turn this to like a soft light. Soft light. And we're going to clip it down to just the fairies layer. And it's still doing something funky. I wonder if I made a copy. Let's just see if it's going to affect if I move it down and put them separately. Yeah, it's not doing it. It must be something in the layer. It's not working on just the layer. So we'll just make a copy of this and again drag it down to the first fairy and clip that. So I feel like they're blending in a lot more, but I will turn the opacity down. Maybe, yeah, 50% looks about right. I just felt like they were too bright. They were really standing out. Now I want my subject to be the brightest thing in the image, you know, because I want her to have the attention. Now the one in the background is brighter than the front one, so I will leave it like that. Yeah, I'm liking those a lot better. That one could be maybe go down just a little. Maybe we'll put that one at like 80%. That looks a lot better. It's like my favorite trick to blending color tones and stuff like that. So this one, yeah, I'm liking the sparkles. Okay, but I think I might just turn them down a little bit more. Maybe we'll put them at 30% and see what that looks like. That looks good. All right, so we will, now I'm going to probably make a new layer again. So I love keeping all my layers, but sometimes you have to flatten things. And so I love to flatten everything, but on a new layer above all of my previous layers. So if I make a mistake, it's way easier to go back than if you flattened it. So how you do that is you go Shift, Control, Alt, E. And it's going to make that whole brand new layer above. So I'm going to name this one Sharpen Details. And I just feel like my subject needs a little bit more sharpening than the rest of the background and everything. So I'm going to do an unsharp mask on this. So filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. And we're just going to look at her eyes. Let's bring the unsharp mask on this screen. There we are. So I'm going to just concentrate on her eyes. So right now, let's see what these settings are like here. And I do like that. So you can just take a look at my settings here and copy it if you'd like. That's usually what I use with unsharp mask. But now I'm going to make a layer mask on this one and invert it. Because like I said, I don't want to sharpen everything. I just want to sharpen the details. So we will zoom right in here. And with a small soft brush, we're going to just paint it on her eyes. I have my brush at 100%. And we'll brush it onto her nose and her teeth, mouth area. You could even sharpen other little details, like say you want the flowers on her dress to be a little sharper. I'm going to just see what my mask is looking like here. I feel like my pen is going, or my computer's running a little slow here or something. So we're just gonna look at my mask. So how you can get into this and see where you're masking is your backslash key, and it will show you where your mask is. All right. And I'll hit backslash again just to see how that's looking. And there we go. I think this is turning out super cute. And like I said, I had zero plans for this photo. I just dived into it with you guys, and you know, the outcome I'm really liking. So sometimes just playing around with different things and experimenting in Photoshop is great, because you know, you learn new things, and you're also, you know, kind of figuring out your style and that kind of thing. So I think it's awesome to do that. So I feel like this image is almost done, but I kind of want it to look a little more painterly. So I'm actually going to flatten everything and save it, or maybe I'll save it as a PSD just in case. So you just go File and Save. Oh, it's going to save it as a TIFF for me. But you can, if you go Save As, you can save it as a PSD file instead of a layered TIFF file. A layered TIFF file works just fine for me, but some people prefer the PSD. All right, so it's almost done saving, and then I'm going to flatten it, and we will just do up the finishing touches here. We could play around with doing some other kinds of just overall toning of the image. So I think I will do a gradient here, And again, we will make it radial, if my pen will let me. There we go. And I'm going to reverse this, and we're just going to kind of play around with this here. We're going to, I'm going to play around with maybe like the oranges. Let's see what the oranges look like. I like this pink and yellow. I wonder what that would look like. I kind of want it to be, yeah, let's just play around and see what this does. So let's hit OK for a second, and I'm going to put it to soft light. And obviously turn the opacity way down. And I kind of like playing around with these like different tones and stuff, because honestly they turn out pretty cute sometimes. Like I'm really loving the tones of this. It's like really warm and inviting. So I'm gonna keep this, but again, I turned the opacity down. It's on soft light, and I still will paint it off of her because I don't want her skin to be so bright or like pink looking. So I'm gonna go to my brush, and we will just kind of paint it off of her. All right, so I need my brush, and I'm gonna make my brush bigger, and I'm gonna hit X to toggle so it's black, and we're just gonna, like, at 100% I'm gonna paint it off her skin, because I just felt like it's just too pink, a little bit too pink. So at 100% I'm gonna brush it off her skin, and then I'm gonna go down to like 40. Oops, that is not right. 40. There we go. And I'm going to make my brush large, and we're just going to paint around her a little bit more at 40. And we'll just see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty. 15%. Yeah, we'll do that. And then I'm going to go into the color lookup, and I'm just going to see if there's something in there that would be fun to play with. We could even, let's see what this fall colors looks like. That's really orange. So I'm going to turn that off for a second. We also have late sunset. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, I turned it off. Wow, that's really strong. But you know what you could do to soften it, if you kind of like that purple, again, put it to like soft light and really turn the opacity down. So just, yeah, playing around with certain things. It all just depends on your style and what you enjoy doing. So I feel like that color lookup is just, it's a little too much. I'm really liking the what we did with this one, with the color tones. I like it a lot. So I'm going to do another gradient though, and this time I'm going to make more of a, I'm going to go radial and reverse, and we're going to do kind of like a vignette almost. So we will play around with those colors. I'm gonna go with maybe like a cool dark color around the edge, And instead of white in the center, I'm gonna choose like her skin tone, something kind of warm and peachy. And we'll hit OK. And hit OK on that. We're just gonna change that again to soft light. Yeah, definitely soft light. And bring that opacity down. I think I brought it down too much. There. All right, so I'm gonna group those and just turn them both on and off and see what we think. Whether you like the green or the more fall colors, that's kind of up to you. I like that it's kind of bringing the tones all together in this. I feel like the fairies are maybe too yellow in the original, but I'm gonna turn the opacity on both of these layers down because I feel like it was maybe a little too much, but I do like the warmer tones, so we're kind of just gonna warm it up a bit. All right, so now I kind of want to play around with making it look more like a painting, and maybe even working on the highlights a bit more. So instead of making a new background layer, I'm actually going to do I'm going to make a new layer here. So layer, new layer. And we're going to call this dodge and burn. And we're actually going to make it into, we're going to put it on overlay and we're going to make it fill with 50% gray. And we're going to hit OK. So I like to use a gray layer because then you can actually see where it is you're dodging and burning. Now on this layer you can actually just use the dodge and burn tools. So there's the dodge tool right there, or the burn tool. The other option is you paint with white and black. So you can actually paint. And then another, when I use dodge, for example, I'm going to actually use the dodge and burn. So I always keep this at only like 2-3% for exposure. And when I'm dodging, I only dodge the highlights. Because when you dodge a dark area, it will just make it look kind of grainy and dirty, and that kind of thing. So we're going to just use the dodge tool here. And at 3%. And we're going to just really enhance these highlights on her even more. And building up these highlights and burn tool things, using burn and dodge and really building up the highlights is what's going to make your image look like a painting. Alright, so now I'm going to go to the burn tool and just do the same thing. Go over all the little details of the dark tones. Again, up here again, I'm only doing 2-3%, and I'm only burning the shadows. So what you have is here, you have your shadows, midtones, highlights. When you're dodging, you're only dodging the highlights. When you're burning, you're only burning the shadows. All right, so the next thing after I flatten this, I'm going to just drag the background copy down to the plus sign and make a copy. And I'm going to go to filter, blur, and we're going to go to surface blur. And what this surface blur does is it can blur things, but still keep in some of the details. So threshold is going to be basically how much details it's going to keep in. So the lower the number, the more detail that's going to be kept into it. And the higher the number is the less detail. So the lower the number, the more detail, higher the number, less detail. So I'm going to just put a little box on her face here. Maybe I'll just kind of see what it's doing to her dress. I kind of like the effect on her dress, but this number's too high. So we'll just put this at like 10. And I might actually put this one back down to 3. See what that looks like. No, I think I will put it to 5. And I'm just going to hit OK. All right, so I'm going to zoom in and we'll just put that on and off and it'll show you what it did. So basically it just softened everything, right? And I really like doing this effect for the painterly style. So it really just softens everything. The only thing is I will take it off of her eyes because I don't want her eyes to be softened. I just want everything else to be softened. So we'll take that off her eyes and her mouth. All right. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make that new copy layer on top. So I'm going to go Shift Control Alt E. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring this back into Camera Raw. So we're going to go Filter and Camera Raw Filter. I'm going to go into the basics here and we are going to turn the clarity up. And the clarity is going to make that really, it's going to add to the painterly style. So you know, the more you go, the more detail that's going to be brought out. Like this is way too much, obviously, but I just wanted to show you the effect here. So I think I might just bring it to like 40. All right. So I'm going to change this layer name to painter effect or paint effect. And just see the before and after. I do think it is a bit too much, so I will bring the opacity down. Let me just see. And with a brush, actually no, I'll leave it how it is at 40%. So, and now I'm going to actually group both of these. And I'll just show you like that whole painted effect, like an enhancement on what we did. Honestly, I feel like that could go back up to 50. I really love how it's affecting her and the dress and everything, but I feel like the background, it's sharpened it maybe a bit too much. So I'm going to put a layer mask on it, and just with a really low opacity brush, we will paint it off the background just slightly. There. I feel like that looks better. All right. Well, I love it. I think it turned out really great, and I feel like this is a finished image. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please check out Mom Boss Photographers, our Facebook group and Instagram page. Please use the hashtag at mom or hashtag Mom Boss Photographers. If you hashtag your images on Instagram with that hashtag, there's a possibility that your image will be shared. And yeah, please follow my Instagram page at Getzlaf Photo, and also my Facebook page, Heather Getzlaf Photography. I love connecting with other photographers, and I hope to speak with you guys soon and see you in the next tutorial. Thanks again. Bye.